Speaking of manly stuff, do we want to get into Charlie Kirk?
Oh, sure. Sure.
Oh,
I mean, these guys, yeah, while you pull that up, these guys are just like totally focused on this right now. Like the whole trad wife thing just recently became a big thing over the past year or two. The whole being a Chad has been a thing over the past couple of years. Like they are absolutely obsessed with this. And it's just also interesting to point out the relationship status of a lot of the guys who are obsessed with this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of projection going on here, which is why I thought of this Charlie Kirk.
So yeah, I'm turning 30 in 2 weeks, and after seeing this clip, I am just like racked with anxiety that Charlie Kirk may not find me hot anymore. I'm gonna take a break and just kind of do deep breathing in the corner while you play this clip, Matt. Let's do it.
You're not allowed to do that.
Good.
But let's talk about it. Young men on campus, and the numbers show this.
Manspreading.
Young men are the most conservative they've been in 50 years. They're the most conservative in 50 years. Young ladies present a great opportunity. They are not conservative.
What do you think that is?
Well, there's a couple reasons for this. Abortion is obviously part of it, but they've been sold a lie through culture, through media, through even some of their parents that you basically have to go pursue this corporate trajectory and that men are always the problem and suppress your biological impulses. A lot of them are on birth control too, and birth control like really screws up female brains, by the way. Every single one of you need to make sure that your loved ones are not on birth control. It increases depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. Birth control is the #1 most prescribed medication for young ladies under the age of 25.
Wait, can you pause this actually?
They don't give young ladies birth.
Young ladies, please.
Oh my God.
Please.
How old is Charlie Kirk? Like, you know, he looks 12, but he also looks 45 at the same time. He has that kind of vibe going on.
Right, exactly. Pro tip for anybody: stop calling women ladies. Stop calling women.
See if the young ladies in your family are on birth control.
Go to your mom and ask her if she has an IUD.
Right. This is really, I think, an interesting meld of the anti-science right and this desire to control women. We've talked about this on the show before, that they're since they've gone after abortion, they're going to go after the morning after pill next. I mean, that's already in the works. And then after that, it's the birth control pill or IUDs or any other kind of birth control that women have the ability to have agency in, as opposed to like a condom or a method of birth control where the man is determining that, like, how, if there's going to be a pregnancy, honestly, because men see their ability to give life or to impregnate somebody who can get pregnant as like an extension of their masculinity. And it's just this religious fundamentalism too about controlling women. But birth control pills have a lot of other purposes other than just
enabling sluts.
Yeah, right. You know, like me at 14 when I went on it, but I mean, that's not when I was sexually active, but I had ovarian cysts that were extremely painful, and I had to go to like the emergency care at that time when like my body was changing, right? So that was what was happening, and I went on that, and it fixed things for me. But in Charlie Kirk's fundamentalist reality, I would have had to deal with those ruptures in pain as a 14-year-old with braces, because I don't know what this is all about.
It can really hurt your brain.
Apparently, it made me depressed. You know what made me depressed was the ovarian cysts.
Because Eve took the apple from Satan in the Garden of Eden, and so women have ovarian cysts now. If you had read your Bible, you would know this.
I tried to get out of the Garden of Eden.
I didn't hear that part in my Unitarian church.
But can I just psychoanalyze Charlie here a little bit? Like, he's 30. More than, like, I'm 35, so I know what that's like, buddy. But I am not appealing to young men and playing on their anxieties about, say, if they're a virgin or if they're married or not. And Charlie's whole career has been a marketing millionaire said, "Hey, don't go to college. Propagandize for the right wing instead." That guy died of COVID now. Funny enough, and Charlie is no longer like that college-age person who can say like, "Hey, don't go to college. You don't need to. You can be an entrepreneur." He now looks like a chaperone, and the vibes just aren't going to be there for him for much longer. So there people are aging out here. And one of the person's name is Charlie Kirk, because look what's happened to Steven Crowder.
Right.
Like these guys, when your whole thing is like challenging college-age kids, you can't just transition to the Limbaugh stuff.
Right.
Like,
There's
you
an
just become
expiration
another
date.
old guy.
Yep.
Control for pimples, for acne, to control their moods, their period. It is awful. It's terrible, and it creates very angry and bitter young ladies and young women. That bitterness then manifests into a political party that is the bitter party. I mean, the Democrat Party is all about bring us your bitterness, and we'll give you free stuff. It's like we'll trade you bitterness for stuff. Essentially,
Can you pause it? I'm sorry.
Party.
Trade your bitterness for stuff. This is my new thing. So it's great replacement theory, but for young ladies. So the Democrats,
the new voting base,
the Democrats,
aggrieved
right.
women.
they're bringing in the migrants in to flood the voting polls and replace all of you and vote for Democrats. And then they're also doing hormone replacement within the women to make them crazy and bitter for them to vote Democrat. It couldn't be the very tangible rollback of women's rights and people who can get pregnant rights when it comes to abortion in all of these red states throughout the country. The fact that Florida just just implemented their conservative Supreme Court a 6-week abortion ban for people in that massively populated state. It couldn't be the material realities that the Republican Party is setting up. It must be the chemical replacement theory, which is that women are becoming bitter because of the birth control pill. Solid analysis.
Yeah, I like that bitterness, which is like, oh, I'm a little bit bitter that my health, there's all of a sudden Republican lawyers in between me and my doctor.
Right.
Got a little bit of bitterness, but also like, bro, your entire political like movement is still resentful over the last election. That
Right.
You can't accept that you lost.
But also, let's be honest, so this is what's amazing. So we have it is the least married young female generation in American history. We have more 30-something young women that are single than married. And they are by far the most reliable Democrat voting bloc, even more than black voters now. They vote 95% Democrat. If you are a 32-year-old young lady who went to college, who has a nice apartment, a corporate job, and cats, you're a Democrat voter, right? And so how do we win them over? I'll get to that in a second. What's amazing is once they get married, they become 50-50. Once they have kids, they become like right wing about by 20 points. And so the issue is that we're not having enough kids in this country. We're not. Amen. And that we've basically told a great generation of young women, don't get married, don't have kids, go get a corporate job. And it's created mass political hysteria. And then in their early 30s, they get really upset because they say, the boys don't want to date me anymore because they're not at their prime. And people get mad when I say that. Well, it's just true. If you're in your early 30s, I'm sorry. It's like you're not as attractive in the dating pool as you were in the early 20s. But again, you have your corporate job and cats. So I thought, and I feel sorry for a lot of these young ladies. They email me all the time and they say, don't. Charlie, I'm broken down in tears. I'm 33. I earn $130,000 a year. I travel a lot and I have no one to share my life with. And I hope.
It sounds like she has a great life. That's why she wants to share with somebody. Although I will say, going to the man thing, and not to shoot myself in the foot, but, they can't focus on men because by their own definition, the only things they have to offer are like money and sperm. Mm-hmm. That's the only value Charlie Kirk sees for like a husband or man in the lives of these women, that they can get you pregnant and that like you theoretically could use them to be, a stay-at-home mom. But now that women have been liberated for like 40, 50 years in terms of the workplace, like the lack of need to rely on a male provider has led to women being less, needing to get married less. That's just a very common thing that we notice all across the world. When women are allowed into the workforce, they don't have to tether themselves down to men. And as opposed to deal with the reasons why men are not attractive to women, he wants to focus on like putting women back into like chains, essentially chaining them to the thing. And which is, I can see from Charlie Kirk's standpoint why he might, have to rely on that, but some men don't. I will put that out there. And I think that's the crux of a lot of this like incel grifting you see out there. Like the problem is that women have too much freedom, not that you don't have anything to offer them.
And when you have more options,
they could actually end up with someone who they actually like and enjoy spending time with, instead of someone they had to go be with because, they're a social norm due to maybe the family wanting them to marry to someone, or from, like you mentioned, for money, or or kids.
Yeah.
No, that was what I was going to say, but you as a man said it so much better than I ever could as a young lady. Oh, but only young for a little bit of time before I turn back into a pumpkin and Charlie Kirk doesn't want to email me anymore.
I would say, like, to the 6-figure earning 33-year-old women, stop emailing Charlie Kirk.
Well, they're not.
Email me.
But what do they do if they're worried that the boys aren't interested in them anymore?
Yeah, I know.
What does one do when you're 34 and you make 6 figures and have a cat and live in New York, but you say, the boys don't like me?
Well,
Charlie Kirk should say.
Has Charlie Kirk ever spoken to a woman?
Also,
Charlie Kirk,
what's going on there, buddy?
Why are you being a dear prudence for 33-year-old ladies for asking for advice? And I guess your fantasy to this audience.
Well, because I will say, because older ladies have higher standards. Because she has $130,000.
Yeah.
She has cats. She probably has a vibrator. She probably knows how to, take care of herself sexually. So you actually have to offer them something. That's why they're obsessed with getting women young. Because if you date a 16-year-old, not to say that he wants to date a 16-year-old, I'm just saying they seem to focus and they keep focusing on younger recruits. They can be more easily impressed by money. They can be more easily impressed by you having a car, the way they feel like it should be. And so like they have a very adolescent fantasy when it comes to women that, most adult women are not particularly going to adhere to.
I know. Who are the groomers in reality? Let's be real here.
What age? Because this is appealing to like basically like, I think pretty problematic. I don't want to say the words because I don't want to get demonetized anyway, but like a phobophiliac sort of like people who like talk about walls, like women hitting walls. Like this is really, Charlie, what age do you find attractive, buddy? Let's be quantified.
I would like some truth serum. Right. Yeah, exactly. Are we going to go down the Matt Walsh route here? And let's talk about some age of consent stuff. Because when you scratch the surface of one of these guys, if you give them maybe a few drinks or something, we're starting to talk about how age of consent laws aren't really where they should be. And they're not going up in that scenario. They're going down.
So earlier in this event, the pastor he was speaking with asked him about how he's gotten married recently. And I believe either him and his wife are trying to have children or she is pregnant. I can't remember which, but I guess I'm curious whether this woman that Charlie is married to is not considered in her prime, but I guess she is because they're trying to have children, or she is pregnant. So that's the prime characteristic.
She won't be. Soon she won't be. Time comes for all of us, and time is certainly coming for Charlie.
I mean, Charlie Kirk was doing like bad back pain relief commercials. So.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Before he's even 30 years old, you're doing bad back commercials, buddy. Okay.
Well, I mean, after his like billionaire patron died, you got to get that money some way.
I know. That's a good point.
After he died of the coronavirus 19.
Charlie Kirk's wife, by the way, is in her 30s, and Piers, they had a kid while their kid was born when she was in her 30s. So, I mean, this isn't, I don't know why he's given these poor women who call in advice that it's over for them, instead of just saying, hey, look, don't worry about it. I did it, and look at me.
Some fruit from a rotting tree.
Everybody's got, I've plugged this before, but the Some More News look at Lady Ballers, where Ben Shapiro produced a movie in which a young woman, a girl, I'm speaking like Charlie Kirk, a girl,
young lady,
is told by her father that, yeah, look, boys are just better at some things like being doctors. Ben Shapiro's wife is a fucking doctor. We know this because anytime socialized medicine comes up, he says that would be like enslaving his wife. So he made a movie where you're sort of enforcing gender roles that your literal life does not conform to. It's wild, these people.
Well, I mean, I watched that same Some More News video about lady ballers because I didn't want to sit through lady ballers, so I
Right.
watched a video about it.
Gosh,
and I
even
think
you
they
won't
made,
sit through lady ballers, Brandon. That's how we know.
God, it's just like it just seems like it would suck. No offense to the people who made it, but I think they made a good point that that I probably could have determined just from watching the trailer is that a lot of this stuff is just like anti-women, and I feel like even when people like Charlie Kirk say that like the younger generation of men are becoming more conservative, that's what they really mean. They're just becoming more anti-women. I don't think the younger generation of men are like becoming more anti-weed. I don't think they're becoming more like socially conservative about what they should be expected to do. I think a lot of this like conservative push in younger men specifically has to do with like women, and then like race also becomes the byproduct of that as well, for the same reason incels become so concerned with like black people because of this perceived sexual inadequacy. Like a lot of this, like, 18-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 21-year-old guys are becoming more conservative. Like, are they really? Like, what stops them from going to church? Nothing. Nothing stops them from going to church. Nothing stops them from having like a ranch or anything. I mean, other than the normal American things that stop you from doing that, like having no money. But theoretically, nothing stops them from living in a small town and driving a truck. Their conservatism is more about removing women's like liberation to not date them. And a lot of things spiral out from that. But when I'm not convinced by this idea that like younger generations are becoming more broadly conservative, just, younger men are at that age where they're being preyed on by people like Charlie Kirk and Andrew Tate into believing that their, social failures are some kind of deep, some of them are like a deep moral and intellectual failure, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes you get rejected by a woman, but that just has become metastasized in our current content environment to become this entire crusade against women's right to say no.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Like this is why Tim Pool's always mentioning Thanos and making these reference to kid shit, is because that's where they're fishing.
Yep.
That's who is brainwashable. Once you're like 25, you have life experience, you realize a lot of this shit's dumb and just like blatantly like to reactionary ends. But when you're a teenage man, that's where these guys can get you.
I mean, if you have a kid a young boy that's like 12 to 16, just like be like a little on alert that their Minecraft or whatever their stuff that they're watching isn't just actually like a right-wing algorithm, because there's a lot of preying on that right now, I think.
Yeah, and you shouldn't let them watch that because, Charlie Kirk has a job, but your teenage son, like, this kind of stuff like plays really well online. They won't be able to hold down a job. You can't act like this
or
at
a relationship.
Right.
Or relationship is one thing, but you can't go on to your job and ask the women there like if they have birth control. You can't do that. That's like sexual harassment, and like they rail against that online, but you can rail against that online all you want. That doesn't stop you from losing your job when like HR calls you in and going like, hey, Susan in like creative design thinks that you're being a little weird, and then you're like, well, how about we debate it? And they're like, how about you get out of my office?
Well, excuse you, Brendan. You seem to forget that if your teenage son does say that stuff online and get fired from their job, he has the backup plan of Elon Musk suing his employer for him.
Oh, that's true. Or he can go to Hustlers Academy as hosted by Andrew Tate.
Oh, gosh. Those are the options, folks.
Those are the only two options.
Chance the Liar says, try negging a 35-year-old woman and see where it gets you. That's exactly right. Like their pickup artist stuff doesn't work on women that old.
It's funny that nagging stuff, because it's like, do it on like 100 women and maybe like 5 will respond well. It's like, you find people who are like
insecure,
really insecure.
Yeah, and
problems of victimized.
But that's why it's so disgusting.
Really,
it's like, now I know I can manipulate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, some people just can't approach like women or any task really, not that women are a task, without having like what strategy they think is foolproof. And like, imagine how many of those 100 women would have said yes if you weren't being a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
But it's about protecting themselves.
Well,
yeah, and it also
like everybody
instills
can.
confidence.
everybody can realize that it is funny. It is easier to be funny when you're being mean. I think, and because I think it's like the anxiety, whatever. But like, yeah, that whole thing is like, no, actually, the key is just socializing with people.
Right.
Actually, and that you need to be mean about it is just like some sort of extra push you apparently need because psychologically it's scary. But no, you can just talk to people.
I will say in MTV or VH1's hit show The Pickup Artist, Mystery did not do necking, if I recall correctly. Mystery taught you like magic tricks and like jokes and just like made you go, and like also like the different cuts of women underwear so you didn't seem like you had never seen any. And then
So
he
they
told
should
you to
try
go-
magic tricks.
Yeah, exactly. They should try like magic tricks. Like,
Women love magicians.
Sleight of hand.
Okay, well, I can't go that far and co-sign that. Maybe carry around a ventriloquist dummy, like wear a funny hat. Like those techniques have, like I think
A fedora and a doll. That is what brings the ladies to your doorstep. I mean, that's what we've heard before.
Yeah.
I'm giving that advice for just Charlie Kirk's audience, okay?